Good morning, Australia. Good evening, North America. It's time for Talking Baseball Australia Live. Here we go. Let's roll the open in 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want. With Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughan. It's baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box to the mound.
That's right, from the batter's box to the mound. And joining me from the great west of Australia is my partner in crime, Paul Morgan. And good morning to you. Happy opening day.
Yes.
Even though the Blue Jays are playing on the road, happy opening day, Buffalo Blue Jay fan.
Well, we're the Buffalo Blue Jays. We're a whole new team, folks. So it's exciting time. Well, it's exciting. Yesterday we had obviously the Yankees game on in the morning here with the Nationals, and then the Dodgers and the Giants. So it was, but today's the real deal. All the teams in action, I think, apart from the Yankees and the Nationals in the end. But the Rangers home. They're not home. They're away. They're on the road as well.
They're home in.
Oh, they're in the new ballpark.
Yeah, the new ballpark in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. Boy. Still, it's the weirdest opening day. I mean, first off, we're July. What is this? Well, you're July 25th. I'm July 24th. Still Friday here. Just dinner time on a Friday. July opening day. I mean, that's for starters. Number two, I was watching the Mets and Braves the last hour, and I had the TV to my left, and I kept looking to my left because I kept thinking I saw something that looked like fans. They were cardboard cutouts, and that still gets I'm doing this whole. And then last night watching the Dodgers game, I kept trying to pick out the celebrity cutouts. Tommy Lasorda cutout there behind home plate. I mean, in this 2020, which is the most bizarre year we've had in our lifetimes, toss that out there. I guess it fitting for the most bizarre baseball season in our lifetimes as well. I mean, it's weird, man.
I will say this as a Blue Jays fan. I mean, I am watching the game at the moment, the Blue Jays and the Rays. And I tweeted this earlier. There isn't much difference between watching this game from 2019 to 2020 because if one ballpark knows how to not play in front of fans, it's that ballpark down there in Tampa.
Because their time, I've been down there. It's been a few years, but I went down there in 2010 and 11, or maybe 11 and 12. I got to tell you, the Rangers were playing, which aren't a big road draw anyway. The only time they draw, the poor Rays draw, the Red Sox and Yankees are in town, but. There were plenty of cardboard cutouts to be had there. I mean, there were plenty of places for them, and I had great seats, so all good. Well, nothing changes for the Blue Jays and Rays, really, right?
No, nothing. But it's unfortunate though, because the Rays are actually, when you look at them, I mean, they are a really good team. I mean, and they're one of those sort of teams that may not be on many people's radars, but really should be on your radar because they are a really, really well put together team. And it was nice earlier. Saw Mike Brasso in the lineup, of course, former Perth heater, had a little ground out, but nice to see him in the lineup as well on opening day.
One of the just phenomenal young man, and we've talked about this too. If Mike Brasso gets that little doink in the hand in Adelaide. 2017. It was actually December of 17. If he doesn't get doinked in the hand there in Adelaide, I think the Heat roll to a Claxton Shield, and with lost him and of course Jake Fraley. You lose two big leaguers. Well, that's kind of hard to make those up. I don't care what league you're in, but anyway, in the Rays, that might be a good story here before we segue into the show for down the road. A show to talk about the Rays versus, say, the Yankees' way of doing things, because it's definitely different. Having been down to spring training in recent years and knowing the analytics that they use, they're more their GM and their people in their office are more going to be likely to be MBA or Ivy League educated, as opposed to maybe old school baseball folks, which might litter other organizations. But that's for another conversation on the road. Glad you guys are along. Talking Baseball Australia, we're out of dry dock. We've been out for like 3 or 4 weeks. We got great stuff coming up for you the next couple of weeks. We've got I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, we're looking forward to having Luke Hughes on down the road. We've also got Cam Vale coming on from the Australian Baseball League, just to name a couple of names. So we got lots of things in the hopper for you guys as we give you a baseball's best made all summer, all year long. Doesn't matter what summer you're in. And we give you baseball from an Australian perspective here from my office in Texas, his office in Perth. And it's the Brekkie and Baseball edition. So what's for Brekkie, mate?
Actually, I made myself a lovely. I still don't know how to pronounce it, whether it's a sai or a chai or whatever bowl. So nice, the little granola and fruits and whatnot in there. So and a little coffee. So I did that this morning, trying to get to that 6:40 first pitch for the Blue Jays and Rays. I got there and poured a little coffee, and now talking a little baseball.
This is not on the run sheet, but just from, and I want to get your perspective off the top. Did you listen to the Blue Jays local cast, the Toronto broadcast that you were listening to?
Yes.
So did I guess my question is, listen, I'm watching the national broadcast last night. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. Did you get a better perspective did it sound better? I guess my question is, did the broadcast sound better from a local perspective? Because ESPN kind of
Well, what I think have done well, so Sportsnet is the station that carry the Blue Jays games, but they've got a lot of like the in sweepers and out sweepers. They're doing a lot of local stuff. They're sort of cutting to Zoom fans and whatnot. But there's a lot more familiarity there. All the score bugs and everything are the same as what they've always been. So there's a little bit more familiar. And I think Dan Schulman's on the call today, and with well, his name totally escapes me, but Dan Schulman on the call, which is always something nice, and it just gives you that hometown familiarity, DV, which we've always talked about. So.
Yes, yeah, it is. And Dan is also, I think he is from Ontario, so I think he's a native. Must see, Mom's sounding. Mom says she has to watch the Cubs and Brewers. Sorry about that, Mom. Sorry about your bad luck. You guys can join the show, by the way. The chat line is open. We'd love to hear from you guys wherever you're watching across the great southern land or in North America. If you want to talk a little baseball, we also will take questions and comments in the show. But we're going to really cover the news items of the week, really. And I guess we could just jump into a couple of things. First, I want to ask you guys, are you guys watching? I guess that's the question. I know we're watching. Are you watching? Are you the fan of baseball, whether it be in Australia or wherever you are? Maybe it's baseball, Brett, in England. Are you going to watch? I know he is. I know you are. I know I am. No. But are you watching? Are you really turned on by it? Are you saying, eh? And I think that we're all, at least it sounds like initially everybody's sort of, in this year of COVID, we're all good. Rest of the show, we're going to have a little MLB update and also a little talk about the a couple of guys doing some things in the American Association as well. And the Blue Jays are going to be a part of our conversation. But first off, there's no bigger news from our perspective when an Australian player is, quote unquote, a big leaguer. I mean, Luke Hughes hit the home run his first game with the Twins. That was a huge deal. Whenever an Australian makes the big leagues, and we've got another one. He's not in the lineup tonight, but we've got a big leaguer in Australia in baseball now.
Yeah, Aaron Whitefield. Congratulations to Aaron. Of course, Team Australia centre fielder made the move to the Giants, won the Helms Award, as you know, DV, which is, those who don't know, the MVP of the Australian Baseball League as well. Went over there. I don't believe I think he's only gone as far as AA with the Twins organisation before, but got the call up to the 30-man roster. I read a little bit about that sort of backstory. So Byron Buxton's still, I think he's still troubled by a foot injury with the Twins, but they liked that Whitefield offered something totally different to the other guy. They got a lot of depth in that center field position at the Twins, but the manager sort of came out and said that he liked the fact that he just offers something a little bit different to the other two guys that can slot into that position as well. And as you know, DV, this is a sprint, and you need all you guys out. He could. I don't know the rules around the pinch runner and extra innings. If the pinch runner has to have played at some, I don't know what those rules are, but we know he's got wheels, so you could also see him as coming to game as a pinch runner pretty easily, I would have thought. So
yeah, no doubt. And now with the whole with the expanded rosters, and what that means is right now there's 30 men on the roster going for the first 2 weeks, down to 28, and they'll drop down to 26 after a month. But hey, he's a big league. He's on the card. He's on the roster. Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the deal: when they walked out exchange lineup, actually they're not actually doing that this year. Usually, in a normal year, they're texting. But usually, when you walk out, the manager walks out. He's got your got the lineup. He hands it to the umpire. The umpire looks it over, and you exchange lineup cards. The other manager. Aaron Whitefield's name is on that lineup that says on the bench, extra man. He's there. So he pitch run, played defense, which we know, and we just ran those highlights a moment ago. And I said this last week about him. I can't think of anybody besides maybe TK, Tim Kennelly in his prime, and that's a guy that's as good of a defensive player as this guy is. I mean, and maybe Andy San Miguel as a catcher, maybe Matty Kennelly back in his day, but I'm thinking of guys that are really Australian-born defensive players. This guy just goes and gets it, and I think that bodes well for his future with the Twins.
I agree. I think certainly in the league currently, there's no one close to him. But and it's great that he has spent. It's what I love about this so much, and his story going into the Twins, and what's so encouraging is quite often we see guys who, Lewis Thorpe's a great example. He spent a lot of time in the States and now in the Twins. But for a guy to come and play in Adelaide last season and then go straight from Adelaide over there and be on the door, and as you said, he's got the kid on DV, and I haven't done my research. I have to find out what number it is, but he's got the
I can
he's
tell
got the kid
you.
on.
Let me see if I can find that out for you. Let me see if he's on the bench roster. They may not have I can pull it up for you though in just a second because a lot of those numbers weren't announced until the last couple of days. Let's just see here if I can find that for you. But yeah, I will look for that. But yeah, I don't know what he was wearing exactly. A great man once said, but we'll have to find that out. Anybody out there that's watching us knows what number Aaron Whitefield's wearing. We'll let him find it. I'd love to.
Matthew Calkin was still on Facebook. He'd be straight onto it for us. But
yeah, well,
Matty's not
Matty's
on Facebook anymore.
Matty's in. I believe is he on Facebook jail?
Him and Zuckerberg came to blows.
Let's see here. Wendy says, nice. I don't know why my chat's not working, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's not, but Wendy says, nice team orgs. Celeste says, haven't watched a game on TV. It's so weird. Empty stands. Yeah, it's weird. It's like they're doing a scrimmage. And that's something we were talking about earlier, listening to the radio in Dallas earlier. The new ballpark that's in Arlington, the Globe Life Park, it looks so dark because it's got this roof. It looks so dark, and I'm interested to see how it looks like on TV tonight when they actually play in a few minutes. But by the way, I'm pulling the roster up. Let's see what Mr. Whitefield's name and number is. Lewis Thorpe's wearing 43. I can tell you that. Let's see here. Pitchers. Outfielders. He is wearing, you want to guess? Anybody want to take a guess what he's wearing?
I'm gonna say, well, I can go with 61.
You are damn close. 58, mate. 58. You're right on. How about that? He's got one of those. You got one of those relievers numbers on the fringes right there. Good, very good. Let's transition though to that's good though. Again, another big leaguer from Australia. And to put it in perspective, I say this all the time as an American born person here, whatever, Texan, whatever. That happens every day. Natives of states in the States make the big leagues every day. Look out that window. There are plenty of guys who played, had a cup of coffee, whatever. But for an Australian to make it, which means international free agent, or maybe through the draft and coming into the system and playing where they're so free, it's a long run to get it there anyway. It's hard enough to get there as an American, much less as an Australian. To get to the big leagues, it's huge for our game. So this is a big, big deal for our game and for Australia. You, the Australian fan, who is obviously native, do you get the chills and the good feelings when a vibe when a guy like Whitefield makes it?
Well, I think it's just that it's such a, when you kind of spend time, as I'm fortunate to do between North America and Australia, and you realize, as you said, you go down to if you walk down from Dallas to your local high school and you go out to that field, probably that field is probably better than any ABL facility, probably. And then you sort of see, these guys who come from, playing in fields and that are, quasi footy ovals to sort of, keep going, keep grinding, get their opportunity, pack up, leave, go to the other side of the world, go the college route, do whatever, and make it. It's a huge deal. It's such a huge deal because because it is against so many odds, and to do it is incredible and an incredible achievement. And it's just great for the game and just great for, I just hope that your guys like Whitefield, like it just continues to inspire the next generation that it's possible. And, baseball is a sport you should really get into. And it's far better than cricket, than just keep pushing the narrative.
As he just jabs the cricket fans right there. Give me one of those.
Well,
Alex, go ahead.
I grew up playing cricket, and there's nothing wrong with cricket. It's a great sport, but it's not as enjoyable to play as baseball. But because it just doesn't have the profile, it just doesn't. Like as a youngster, you just don't know. But now with now the fact that you've got every game live on MLB TV here, and you've got much more exposure, and the ABL's back. It's so great, particularly to see Whitefield come out of the Giants last season, go into the big leagues is a dream come true for all Australians.
Again, my chat's not coming up on the board, so I do apologize, but I do see you guys out there. So if you do have a question or comment here on Talking Baseball Australia live, I'd love to have you. Wendy's laughing about let's see here. Celeste says, when they interviewed the Cubs coach on TV, he talked the mask. Yes, and that was going on last night. Gabe Kapler, the manager of the Giants, was being interviewed on ESPN, mask on as well. Alex Bouchier is watching us, saying, good day, Dan and Paul. Good to see you guys together. Man, that's one of the best. That guy, dang it, I got to find that picture. I meant to tell you this last week, Alex. I got to find that picture of the next week's episode of the one where I took of him in Victoria and Melbourne. If he's focused in that long 100-yard stare as he's ready to go pitch for the Heat an opening night a couple of years ago. But what a good guy to see out there.
It'd be great to see Alex back in the Australian Baseball League as well. Great to see him if he can do a great band does, and the once more for the crowd tour, and one final tour, and one last stand, and then continue to do the one last stand for seasons on end.
Sorry about that. I'm doing my crowd noise because that's our next topic. How about that? Can you hear me now talking over the crowd noise? There we go. There's your crowd noise. Can you hear me? Can you hear the crowd noise, partner? How are you feeling about now? Did you watch that last night? That nonsense?
Well, I'm kind of used to it because it's been going on for a while in obviously the Australian Football League and rugby and whatnot. They've been doing the fake noises and the different crowds and the no crowd noises. I've got used to everything from zero crowd noise to field mics turned right up so you can hear everything on the field to your fake noises to. I didn't mind I didn't watch a lot of it, but I saw with the Nationals and the Yankees. I didn't mind the fact they did a few wide shots. There's some people living in the apartments around the ballpark there in Washington that were sitting out sort of watching into the ballpark. I think as long as you keep the music and the organ going, I think you're going to be okay in baseball. But if they go dead silent, because I watched the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, in just whatever they were calling them, summer league, the last game, and they had nothing, and it was brutal. So I think you need to get the organ fired up still, and you need to still do the stretch, still do the music and the walk ups, still do all that, and I think still have the PA announcer, and I think you'll be okay. But
here he is, folks, Paul Morgan. With the applause sign blinking, it's like the old talk show where they'd have the applause. Yeah. Well, the other thing that came to mind is I'm thinking, well, okay, so you can also do things like this. You can do things like this sound here. If I can find it for you, things like this might be sort of in vogue. Like, I mean, you can run that in there, right? So, hey, Morgan, what are you doing, dude? Come on, catch the ball. I mean, you could do that.
You suck.
Or you could have something like this. This would be one that I think would be kind of fun. Here's one that maybe kind of fun. Let's see. Well, that's the applause again. Let's try this one. Let's pull the applause down because I don't want the applause there. I thought maybe something like this. Try it again.
Boo. Boo.
Now batting for the Blue Jays. Number 99, Paul Morgan.
99, got the big time.
So how you feel about that? I mean, I know they're not doing all that, but the truth of the matter, it's more of a tongue-in-cheek deal, but I unearthed, and I don't know if you saw my show earlier, I did a search on Major League Baseball sounds, and every team has a zip file of their entire show, and I found the Blue Jays, and that's where I got I got the Blue Jays chant earlier, but every team has got their own little package of zip files from MLB The Show. You can actually get these online. I didn't even know it was even out there. I thought there's no way you can find this. Sure enough, I found every one of the teams' game day files. So you can actually sort of just do crazy things like this, I guess. I mean, you can do that, but I mean, so honestly, kind of tongue-in-cheek aside, it doesn't seem right, does it? Am I crazy? Does it seem right at all?
No, I think, but I think, and this is actually part of the reason why I'm sort of looking forward to seeing the Blue Jays play in a minor league ballpark, because I just feel that, like, you've got these stadiums that these guys play in are so enormous that it almost makes it worse, that the fact that and I know obviously you want to play in a big league park, but I don't know. Like, I think playing, I would have loved to have seen a team. I would have been okay if the Blue Jays went and played on the Field of Dreams all year, and that was their that was their field to play on.
They could pipe this in for you right there.
Yeah. The old NDL building. I'll have to take your word for it, because I can't hear the sounds I'm playing. So
well, it's Let's Go Jays, Let's Go Jays, Let's Go Jays. You're gonna when you watch this in replay, you're gonna be going, very funny, Vaughn, very funny. Yes, Let's Go Jays, let's go. But again, every team's doing it. I get it, but it was weird. I know that if you don't have something in there, because I've been to a couple of high school, for example. You used to have a high school tournament up in Gary at the old Steel Yard, and it'd be in April or March before the season started, and it'd be cold. And you'd go in there, there'd be these two high school teams playing with like 30 fans, and that place echoed of emptiness. It was great to see the kids playing, but there was just no. I mean, you'd hear now batting little Johnny, the echo. Then there's a foul ball. You hear it bang around in the empty seats, and it had real. I mean, you'd hear one guy, "Come on, little Johnny!" It was just so. I mean, you could hear literally if somebody passed gas, you'd hear it. It's just you need. I guess you need some kind of noise, but at the same time, if you don't have any noise, I don't know how that works either. So I guess I kind of think this is a can't-win situation. That's kind of what my take is. You can't win. I don't like it, but I don't. But I gotta have something.
Yeah, I think when there's nothing, like, I think you can get away with it. And this is where actually it's funny, because radio becomes actually a better product over TV, outside of the fact that people want to watch the game. I get it, but when you listen to the game with no crowd on radio, typically they turn the effects mics up on the field, and the audio is audio is obviously what is the theater of the mind in radio. But from a radio perspective, nothing greatly changes, because you still miss the crowd noises a little bit, but it's not as dramatic as TV. So, look, I think you'll probably see this year, and a lot of people will probably make it switch back to, particularly for baseball, switch back to radio a little bit, because it's easy to kind of cut. Like, it's so easy now to look at the highlight. You can just get on the MLB app, and if someone hits a home run, 5 minutes later the highlights on the app, or 3 minutes later the highlights on the app. So I think what you'll probably find a lot of fans will do, they'll give it the first couple of weeks, or they'll give it a week or so watching the games. They'll probably, as those games go out in the West Coast, especially, people start getting a bit late at night and probably start putting people to sleep. But I think you'll start finding the radio making a bit more of a comeback to baseball, and maybe that more traditional side of baseball will come, which suits us fine, DV. But I think the radio is going to be your best mate.
Yeah, I agree. And before we move to the next topic, but I'll tell you this: as a broadcaster, I don't have my headphones here, but you got your headphones, and you're able to hear everything. I broadcast in some really, for example, I was listening to a game, doing my show. I did a greatest hits for the T-Bone show yesterday. It was from last July in St. Paul. There was 8,000 people there, or something like that, and you could feel in listening to the game, the ambiance, the noise of the bats and the crowd, and the way the crowd mic was situated, picking up all of the different noise had a real feel to it. I broadcast 2 weeks ago. I did a no-hitter from we broadcast a no-hitter from 2018 from a place that had nobody there. It was in Grand Prairie, Texas. It was quiet. And the energy level for a no-hitter was not existent because there was no one there. Even though I'm in the booth, woohoo, the crowd mic wasn't helping me out. The audience wasn't helping me out. No one was helping me out. It's amazing how much better I sound as a broadcaster, how much better the game sounds with those ambient sounds. And you get that from radio. You don't get that from, you get that's part of the whole thing because it's a theater of the mind. You've got to hear that bat hit the ball. I know in Fargo, we play up in Fargo, there's a mic right by the dugout gate. You can actually hear that gate open. You hear the footsteps of the bat boy going to get the bat. You hear him on that cinder. You can't hear that all the time on TV. And but again, that's kind of my take. I'm with you, but yeah, radio's got a little hope here. Going to see Eric out there too.
I do, and the one last bit before we move on, I will add is everyone, radio mainly included, but the TV guys and the radio guys, 99% of them, I think all of them, aren't they're all calling off the screen somewhere.
Yep.
And that really, and you and I have done it before as well, and it's not as easy as being at a stadium. And I've heard, a couple of the broadcasts that I've heard so far, like they're not very good because all of a sudden, whoever is, they've got one shot. Like right at the moment, there's a shot on Rowdy Tellez of the Blue Jays. I think he's just hit a home run or something. But you don't see anything else. You can't see right now. You can't see. Is the pitcher, is he throwing his glove in the mound? Is he ticked? Is the manager hooting and hollering? Like you can't see any of that. So you kind of. There's so many broadcasters, I think, are just struggling big time at the moment to kind of go, okay, well, how can I? Because I was particularly the color guys, because I was I don't have that shot, or I don't have that angle, or I don't know what the shortstop's doing with his first step because I can't see it. So it's just like it just is. It's not as so. I mean, I'd love to see the broadcasters back in the booth, Stevie, because as you and I know, it's a challenge to not. Challenge not to,
it's a huge challenge. It's just so much energy, but lacking when you're not there. And I miss it when we're not in the air, when we're doing the whole thing. You can still do it, but I think I'll close with this. Maybe what needs to be done is instead of being on the edge of your seat at the venue, you kick back, put your feet up, and you almost call the game from a TV perspective, like you're just sitting there on your couch with your mates and just kind of pass me the chips. And, oh, by the way, there's a hit. Oh, did you know this guy did this? But not trying to describe because I don't think it lends itself, because when you're there, you can tell you can look down the bullpen and see that the pitcher's ready when the coach takes his hat off and signals back. You can't see that on a video. You don't know when you're there, and it's just something about that. But it all kind of gets circles back. Questions. Eric says baseball's back. Where's Liam playing? He's with the Athletics. Liam Hendricks, and yes, one of the Australian contingent with the in the big leagues there, Liam, and we got to try to track him down. I hope we get fingers crossed.
I think we'll be able to track him down. So I think we'll be able to track him down.
Let's go to this situation. I'll put that on the graphic up on the screen here. If I can put up there we go. The graphic up for you is this one here. If I can put it up, there we go. Try it again. I grab it for you. Anyway, it wasn't showing up for you, but the Blue Jays situation is interesting. They were homeless all week because the government in Canada, Ontario, whatever I guess it was the federal government, I believe, wouldn't allow them to let them play games in Toronto. They went homeless. They were going to play in Pittsburgh. That didn't work out with the government there in Pennsylvania. Then it was maybe playing in Baltimore, Dunedin, or now they've settled back on Buffalo. You just mentioned that a moment ago. A little late to find a home, isn't it? They found one today.
Yeah, a little late in the game. I think it's probably actually the best result in the end. So they were originally going to play all their home games in Toronto. For those who haven't been to the Blue Jays stadium, there's a hotel built in the stadium there. So the players were going to be quarantined for the whole season at the ballpark. So it was going to be a bit like Dan Schmidt years ago. The players were never going to be allowed to leave the ballpark. So every home game they were in Toronto, they'd have to obviously get off the plane, get bussed straight to their hotel room and stay in the hotel room, so they'd never be able to go out in the streets of Toronto. So the players were fine with that, from what I understand. And then they were, as you said, DV, Pittsburgh was they were going to share with the Pirates, and Pennsylvania shut that down. They didn't want to, from everything I heard, they really wanted to, even though Dunedin would have been the easiest solution for them because it's probably the most up to spec for them. They really didn't want to play in Dunedin because Florida, as you know, is just such a mess, with such a mess from a COVID point of view. So everything for the team, they were trying to avoid Florida. They settled on Buffalo. Buffalo, like you can, and a friend of mine's done it before, you can park in a Tim Hortons car park in Ontario, walk across the bridge and be at that ballpark in 35 minutes. I mean, you're literally 4 kilometers from Canada, so you can't be any closer. I think why in the end the team chose Buffalo over everywhere else as well is the fact that if somehow COVID gets slightly better, maybe the Canadian government change their stance. Buffalo's just 50 minutes an hour away from Toronto, so it's easier to put everything in the truck and ship it back up to Rogers Centre than be sort of stuck down in Pennsylvania or Florida. So it's
and the crazy thing too is good to see Bowser out there in Perth. By the way, yes, that's not the same Hendricks, by the way, Mom, in Chicago. From Buffalo's standpoint, Buffalo's a long history of baseball, going back to the old Negro leagues back in the day. They were an international league club forever. They've been an IL club. They've a lot of history of baseball. The old ballpark there was used in the movie The Natural, the Robert Redford movie. The new ballpark, built, I believe, around, I want to say it's about 20 years old, maybe 15 years old. It was built with the idea that maybe one day they could bring big league ball to Buffalo. Buffalo's always wanted big league baseball. The only negative thing for the folks in Buffalo is they're not going to be able to go actually support the Blue Jays in person and say, hey, look at us. Forget Portland. Forget San Antonio. Forget anybody else you want, or Vegas or Salt Lake, for these places that keep coming up for baseball. Forget those places. Hey, Buffalo can support big league baseball, but they're not going to be able to chance to really show it because they're not going to be having fans in the stands. But it makes sense. I mean, I've been there. I saw the Cowboys play the Bills years ago, and I was amazed that I could hear the sports station from Toronto clear as day. It's only, what is it, about 25 miles, 39
miles. It's not
very far, but it's right there. But at least they got a place to play. I guess that's good news there.
Yeah, and look at Buffalo, and like if people aren't familiar with Buffalo, it's where Niagara Falls is. But also, like as you said, there's the Buffalo Bills, the NFL teams there. They got the Buffalo Sabres, the NHL team. The ballpark's it's a beautiful ballpark right downtown there in Buffalo. Good looking ballpark. It was interesting. I was listening to a Blue Jays, the sports radio before when I was walking the dog this morning, and Kevin Biggio was the guest on the show, and he said, look, he goes, it could be an advantage for us. He goes, obviously the Yankees aren't going to want to roll into a AAA ballpark, and the Red Sox, probably Fenway is, small venue anyway, and the confined spaces. But now with the expanded playoff roster, playoff teams as well, DV, the Blue Jays are sort of holding on to some hope that a lot of big league teams are going to come into that ballpark, and they're going to be massively out of their comfort zone because all of a sudden they're taking a step back in time as well from the bigs to AAA, and maybe it's competitive advantage.
Yeah, it may be. I mean, that special quirkiness of the ballpark. I do know it was built for expansion if they wanted to expand the ballpark to qualify. Because I believe, if I remember correctly, the major league minimum I believe was 28,000 fans. Maybe it's 30 now. It was at one time 28,000, maybe 30. The minimum for AAA I believe is 13,000, I believe that's right, somewhere in there. They may have changed those figures, but they had built that ballpark, and the one in AAA Park in Indianapolis, Indiana, was built with an ability to expand it if they need be. But other Major League Baseball news real quickly, too. You mentioned a moment ago, expanded playoffs. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. everything's on the table, off the table. Everyone will say it. It's a different year anyway. Let's just have a big tournament. Why not? Let's play the season out. Let's have a tournament to decide it all, kind of like a March Madness. Have it in October. I mean, I don't have any problem. Normally, I'd probably say, but I don't. This year, do you really? And that includes the ABL. We'll have Cam on next week, Cam Vale. I'm going to ask him that too, because aren't all bets off? Does it really matter? I mean, are you really going to be upset if it's 16 teams or 6? I mean, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, it's getting Major League Baseball is getting more and more like the ABL every day. Like now, more than 50% of the teams are going to make the playoffs for the postseason.
It's like the NBA. It's like the NBA. In the NBA, if you don't make it in the NBA, then you really are brutal, because everybody makes the playoffs in the NBA. It's
like the NHL. Some teams I don't think are even going to play in the next little bit. So, look, I think what I like about it, though, is, and as we said before, with a 60-game season, you've got sort of teams that are going to get hot and teams that are going to not get hot. And it's just, you may get a team that just sleeps into the postseason and all of a sudden they catch fire and win the World Series. So it's sort of lined up like that. I think I'm with you. I think for this season, the more the merrier. I still think that there's opportunities to bring in. I'm kind of with you as well. I think there's opportunities to bring in potentially other quirks to really bring, I still like that idea of, if there's 2 outs and, I don't know, maybe a runner on first, you have to throw the golden ball that's worth 3 runs or something like that. I don't know.
Why not? Why not? I think, again, the way this year's been, why not? I mean, again, it's at the worst, you're going to say, well, everything failed, we go back to normal. Well, everything's failing anyway. 2020 is failing. So what happens? You discover, you know what? This home run derby in the 10th inning does decide tie ball games. Well, pretty fun, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, take yourself back to being a 9-year-old kid going to a ball game, and then the game's decided by home run derby. I mean, you would be beside yourself with excitement. I mean, that is it's like if the NBA decided to do a dunk contest to figure out like who wins the game in extra time. I mean, like, why not? Or just get a tee out there and see who can hit the ball the furthest. I don't know.
I don't know. Something. I mean, again, it can't be that. I mean, let the mascots have a hot dog eating contest. Something. I don't know.
But you're right as well. To sort of back up some of your comments earlier, around the lack thereof crowd noises in TV. I mean, baseball also has a real risk this season of losing a ton of fans, because you are going up against, as I said, the NBA is coming back around the corner, the NHL playoffs are coming up around the corner, NFL's almost back in vogue, and if you're tuning into broadcasts that there's no one in the stands, not a lot of excitement, your broadcast crew are pretty kind of mundane about the whole situation, you've got a real risk of a product that is kind of boring, like really boring to watch against, what they're going to do in that resort down in Florida for the NBA and different things that, I think baseball really needs to up the fun ante a fair bit, I would have thought.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think this is, again, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, and it's there. So you got to do something outside the box, and 16 teams make it. And I guess if you don't, that's what they were joking about the day here in Texas in the Metroplex, going, well, the Rangers don't look real good on paper, but are they bad enough that are they that bad? They're not one of the 16 teams to make it, or are they just mediocre enough that they make it in the last one? The last one makes the cut. I mean, it's kind of funny to think about that, but. A couple of items, too, before we roll along here. Actually, first off, one big league item, too, and before we jump into the ABL news, it's also of note. But the San Francisco Giants made big news. You've got a daughter. I've got 2. Great to see Alyssa Nathan become the first female coach take the field. You may have seen this earlier this week. She was actually coaching first base. I saw last night. There was a bit on her on the Dodgers-Giants game. Groundbreaking stuff there, mate. As a father yourself, pretty cool, man. I think this is great. Diversity, whatever you want to call it. The opportunities there. But historic, being the first female coach in Major League Baseball. How about that?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's such great news and such progression for the sport, and it's a great moment for baseball as well to have to have this happen in baseball. But look, and that's I think so many people like it's just so ridiculously, and I think this is just in broadly with what's culturally going on in the world right now. So many people get set in their ways because that's the way it's always been done. Well, that's not the way it always has to be done, and that's like everyone has a different opinion of the game and then different mindset. And the hats off to the Giants for making it happen. And you've got a highly qualified person there, and that is a real advantage to the Giants and to baseball organization. And again, and you only need to, if you have a daughter, and all the people who have a daughter out there, or you have a niece or a young friends with daughters. I mean, it is so fascinating to my daughter, who's now 7. Like, even when in the last few years, if we watch
7, I can't believe that. I know. I'd pull the 7. How is that possible?
I know it's crazy, but when she's watching sports or watching, and she actively asks, she goes, "Oh, where are the girls? Why are there no girls on the team?" And as a growing up, obviously, like you just completely don't even notice it as a male growing up. You don't notice it. Like, you just kind of think what it is, but then it gets brought to your attention. You're like, you know what, you're right. And then there's just different female athletes and female coaches that come along, and it's so. I think for people who can it, like, they really need to have a good hard look at themselves, because it's just because, again, like, you're looking at the world in the way that you've always known it. It doesn't mean that it's right, and that's no different to everything else that's going on in the world right now. It's just because it's the way you see things isn't necessarily the way that everyone else thinks. And
amen to that. There's no doubt about it. The Spurs had last night. Greg Popovich sat down, and I can't remember the assistant's name, but they have an assistant, and she took over and ran the team last night. We're in a day and age where this is going on. This is life, and what we may have known as a kid is different now. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's all good. I had a long anytime I see these kind of things, it's a great teaching moment as a parent too, to tell, like you just said, to tell your daughter. One thing I'll say too, from an outside, I'm not really an outsider, but I'm not an Australian citizen, legal resident, but not a citizen. But I'll tell you this: one thing I respect about Australian culture and about sport in Australia is the fact that country is very tuned to women's sport, I think. I mean, so much more so. We're in North America. Baseball's not a big thing it's softball for girls, right? And we're trying to get more opportunities for baseball for young ladies in the States. Over here, it's, the U.S. soccer team is the big deal, but the professional leagues aren't a big deal in general in the States. Where in Australia, we have a growing baseball league. The women's baseball team is top notch. Women's sport is actually very, very popular. And I respect that the Australian culture gets that it's equal footing for both.
Yeah, you're right, and we both know, and we all know, that the virtues of sport and how it connects your community, and the beauty of being part of a team. And like, everyone should have the opportunity to do that. Whether you're male, female, black, white, or whatever you are, everyone should have that same level of experience, the same opportunities to grow. And it is great to see. And a lot of people are really negative on women's sport, but like, it's just ridiculous. It is such a great opportunity for so many people, and I applaud it. And I hope there's more, and I hope soon enough, DV, that we're watching the Australian Baseball League with the women, or there's women coming through and playing in the Australian Baseball League.
Absolutely. Speaking of Australian Baseball League, we slide over to the big news of the week. I think there's other big news. I mean, I think the Aaron Whitefield thing is probably the biggest news. But I think secondly would be the news of Alan de San Miguel is now the new manager of the Melbourne Aces. This is a guy that his whole career has been about playing ball. He's a ball player. He came out of high school early, came to the States as a young man, as a 17, 18-year-old. He's been a ball player his whole life. That's what he does. He's always been coaching. He's been very back home in Perth. He was so involved in the coaching there at the youth level over the years. This is a natural transition. This is your next wave of guys who are going to lead us to the next stretch of years, and possibly maybe one day leading Team Australia. I mean, this is a big deal, and this is a natural transition, I think.
I agree. I think it's no great surprise. I mean, I think he always had managing aspirations. Obviously over there with the Royals, he may be another Australian that gets the opportunity to play in the big leagues as well. But he knows the game so well. Again, we talked earlier about Aaron Whitefield's defensive skills, and I don't think over the past 10 years there's been a better catcher in Australian baseball than Alan D. San Miguel, or someone who knows the game, understands the game like Alan D. San Miguel. So it's a huge pick up for the Aces. What I like about it on top of that is, in Adelaide, you got Tank, of course, young guy as well, a guy recently retired as a manager taking over. And as you said, DV, all of a sudden you've got Tank and Andy Kyle and D. San Miguel and these guys coming through as the next wave of managers, as your next wave of players come through as well. So it's just only going to do better for baseball in this country. And look, I think nor you nor I would say, both you or I would saw that news and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. He'll be a great manager, and he will be a great manager. And he's got a great network in the States as well, DV, and so he'll be able to recruit well as well. So it'll be so the Melbourne Aces, who are the reigning champions at the moment, will be a very, very good team for a significant amount of time in the ABL.
Yeah, I think it's great news for Alan. And we know Alan. You and I go back with him a number of years. He reached out to me before the announcement even, and so I didn't even get a chance to talk to him about the announcement. We're going to try to get him on in a couple of weeks. But he still – and how fitting would it be? And I looked at the roster today, the Royals roster, went through it. How fitting would it be if the right things happened, that he does make a big league debut and it's his final season and he gets to go out in the big leagues? I mean, would that be some kind of something? I mean, he is 30. I mean, I guess he could still hang around a couple of years in the big leagues, but I mean, could you see a scenario where he hangs around a couple of years in the big leagues and still manages over in Australia? I think that's very doable. Be a great fitting in, though.
I agree. I guess it'll be what he does with the next step. Michael Collins, who was at the Cavalry, who then become the Astros bullpen catcher.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
it's so I guess it's hard if you want to go on to be work as a bullpen catcher or something like that. But if he works, if he starts being down in rookie league or sort of managing down there for the Royals organization, there's no reason why. I mean, I think that's why the ABL exists in many ways as well, to create pathways for these guys to go and do exactly that. So there he is, folks. Back in the uniform.
Yeah, and that's my question to you. He was he wasn't the first free agent, but he was probably the biggest name that jumped. Was it the 16 season? To me, he's got the 7 Claxton Shields, one of which came with the Aces, but the bulk of his career is a part of theater. He's always going to be a part of the Heat family. Do you see a scenario down the road, perhaps, where he returns the West to be the skipper out West? I'm not saying anytime soon, but can you see that happening, that scenario? He is so loved in Western Australia. And to me, he's a heater. Even though he plays for Melbourne, he is a heater. You see a scenario like that?
Yeah, I think D-San and Luke Hughes fit in the same category. It's life for both of them took them to Melbourne for not really baseball reasons, more so for family reasons, more than personal reasons, more than baseball. But it wouldn't shock me if he came back west. I mean, it'd be a big bonus for the people out west. I mean, we still are waiting to hear. But first, we're waiting to hear who the Heat managers are going to be. Names going around is
Alan, congratulations.
Andy Cole or Kevin
The payoff.
Part of it last year.
Line into center field. Robinson is there, and the drought is over.
It's just a really good team.
The Melbourne Aces,
the more you can get
ABL
these guys
champions
who
for
and
2020.
The next
parents.
Lewis Thorpe who goes through
And at the age of 16, I signed with Minnesota Twins. I left high school, didn't finish high school or anything like that. I started playing baseball.
Alan De San Miguel has played pro baseball. Originally from Perth, Australia, Miguel has spent parts of
Baseball's what I play to win. I play to enjoy baseball. I live my dream.
That from Walmart every day.
He's also hitting 300, but his presence with the Naturals means much more. At age 29, he's the oldest player on
566 lifetime games. The Aces would like to thank Alan D. San Miguel for all of his outstanding.
It's just hugely beneficial for, the guys who are 16, 17, 18 now.
I'm going to try to draw you off sides, and I want us to go back and forth in this. Let's go back to a couple years. Did the Heat mess up by not keeping him and Luke around? I mean, I know it's on the script, but I'm thinking outside the box here, and I know I'm kind of shifting on the fly here, but I don't want to think that we're just a shill for every team. We love the Heat, of course, but if you look back revisionist history, do you think they would have tried to keep one or two of those guys around in the family? Do you think they would have made a better effort at that? Looking back now, is that a mistake, you think? Maybe that's a better question. I think maybe looking back, maybe keeping one of those guys in the family would have been huge, I think.
I think, look, for me, if you're keeping one of them, I would have kept Luke Hughes out of Alan D. San Miguel and Luke Hughes, because I think what happened when D. San left was you put Alex Hall in a spot. Now, Alex Hall probably wasn't necessarily ready to be at ABL level at the time that he started, but that was that great, and you and I talk about it fondly, and many people look back at that season where Matt Kennelly was the manager, and they sort of look back and think that, boy, the Heat weren't that good that season. But you and I probably look back on that season as our most favorite season ever involved,
yes.
And it certainly was for mine. But I think if D-San doesn't go, you probably don't get Alex Hall. Alex Hall, you may be lost to the game. Like if he may have sort of. So I think you saw him come in. Look, I think Hughes was sort of shifted, I guess, to between second base and first base towards the end. They probably no one's really probably popped up in that position and really owned that spot from an Australian perspective. I like Jake Bowie in there. I wish Bowser could be in the lineup a bit more.
Yeah, me too.
But look, I don't think. I think in a way it's. I think with D-San, there's a D-San going to Melbourne. There was a clear positive outcome from a perspective of, hey, the Aces got better as well, and let's not forget the Melbourne Aces need to be like the Sydney Blue Sox. They're the two biggest sporting markets in Australia. These teams need to be good, so they got better, which is good. But Alex Hall came through. But I just think probably with so many Rays players playing with the Heat, an Australian guy didn't necessarily get the opportunity when Hughes left. But
I wasn't trying to upset. I don't want to upset the apple cart, but I remember we went back. Then I remember that. I remember that year fondly. That year that Matty was the manager. Matty Kennelly was the manager. Of course, Matty now in the police force in Western Australia. But and I think that's a guy I've always said he would have been a guy I'd have hired in the States to be a manager. Matt Kennelly knows the game just like Alan D. San Miguel does. But I wasn't trying to really. But I just look back on that because those are two guys, and it's even to this day to watch those videos, and went to some old videos of D-San and Luke when they were both with the Heat, and I saw the numbers about D-San and Luke both about what they've done in their career. I'm thinking 7 shields, but 6 were in WA colors, and you hate to see those legends not be a part of your family. I just is where I was coming from, and I wasn't, right. I think that's kind of the blanket statement. Speaking of legends, by the way, Spider. Bill Sinclair, Spider, the legend himself checks in. But yes, sorry about that. I didn't step on your toes there. But legends.
Cleveland might be naming their team the Spiders.
Yes, they just might be too.
On a non-baseball, just to draw you off sides for one moment. After all the thinking for Washington to change their NFL team to end up coming up with Washington football team.
Yeah, the wife and I had this debate on our happy hour broadcast about 2 hours ago, and it tells me, the seriousness of it, it tells me that Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Redskins, had no intention of ever changing his name or the team name, because if he did, he'd had something in reserve. He'd have trademarked the names. He'd had something just in case of a rainy day. He would have trademarked 4 or 5 different things. Sports teams do this all the time. They always, I know the T-Bones did this when they thought about rebranding. They had a couple of names trademarked just in case. You and I know this from our work in Australian sport and in baseball. You trademark these things. Well, the Redskins didn't trademark anything. They didn't. That tells you that they had no intention to change the name. They got caught with their shorts down. Now, number 2, some fan decided to buy all the trademarks of the team names up that were kind of thrown out there. So they got to pay this guy to get the name rights. And now they're just called the generic football team. It's like I told my wife, when we were kids, used to go to the supermarket in the States, you walk through the aisle, and there's always the budget section of each aisle.
Yeah.
There's always there's the white bag of chips that says potato chips. There's the white can of beer that says beer. It's just generically it should be a UPC code and just football team. And then maybe they put a thing on their sleeve for sponsor call or, inquiries within or whatever, because it's just football player, football team. It's so generic, but it's the Redskins, so I guess it makes sense. But yes, that's crazy. How they not having a backup plan, it's beyond me. I don't get it, man. But at least they're not my team. At least, thank you. But yeah, it's funny.
The Cleveland Spiders. That's what they're.
The Cleveland Spiders. Yeah, Spider. I saw a mock-up of those kids. They look good, man. Those Spider mock-ups that somebody put online look really, really cool. Alex Howe committed to the Sydney Blue Sox 7th ABL season. This news this week as well. 222-game veteran. Kind of Sydney's leader, really. He's their guy. 324 last year, drove in 14. He's a tail end of his career, 29-year-old, forced 26 and 36. Actually, own base percentage of 426 over 36 games, 8 multi-hit games, hit 391 against righties last year. He had a really good year. This is a guy that's finishing strong. Had his most hits since he had 45 in a longer season a couple years ago in 15-16. But he is going to be, I think, a Josh Dean. Alex Howe is going to be the next guy, on that pecking order. Howe will be the next guy as far as he'll pass Dean as the most games played by the Blue Sox. But when I see these kind of things going on, I feel pretty good about baseball being played in the winter, Australian summer, I guess, the U.S. winter.
Yeah, well, Sydney needed to get some good news. Of course, Luke Wilkins heading to the Adelaide Giants as well with Todd Van Steensel was the last. They had 2 major departures and 1 signing, so they needed some good news. But you're right, and I think we said it last week on the Van Steensel signing. It's nice to kind of hear something that indicates that maybe there'll be, maybe things are going ahead this year, because we still. As we sit here today on whatever it is, July 25th, the state border is still closed in Western Australia, so no one can still come in. So, like at this, as it sits right now, like you can't play. No teams can come in to play baseball at this point in time. So,
yeah, I saw an article. I saw an article today in an executive Australian. It's in a website I follow in Australia, a travel site, but how. Even they're trying to. There's even business folks can't travel. So I mean, it's like it's hard. So they're trying to make some. You see some rural possibilities coming up, and maybe by the time we get to see the season time, they'll let broadcasters in too. Maybe.
Well, you never know. You never know. Otherwise, we'll be like the rest of these schmucks and calling off screens the rest of the season. But no, look.
It's been done.
It has been done, but look, it'll be interesting. I think. It's probably. I think so much of the world comes down to this whole. If there's a vaccine, things will probably be, or if there's maybe not a cure, but if there's an antibiotic of some description, probably everything gets accelerated. If there's not, like I think, and what seemingly certainly is happening in Western Australia is, possibly over cautious, but for some, but I think you'll probably struggle if there's no. And if other parts of Australia start to go up, and I think it's going to be a challenge. But look, I think you have to sort of pursue and have to take one step forward and think that you're going ahead. Otherwise, it's a grim thought for the sport. But let's hope, DP.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope so. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Again, that's pretty much all the ABL news. Let's run into a couple of indie ball things. What's really fun about the American Association, you got a lot of connections in the ABL, not necessarily Australian players, because Todd Van Steensel would have played in Fargo this year, but because of the COVID deal and not allowing travel, and the American Association would not let foreign players in any way. It didn't make any difference. You couldn't come in from the Dominican Republic or wherever. You'd already be based in the States. The few players that are allowing international players, one LA Lago is Cuban, but he lives in the States now, and that's it. Everybody else is either from Puerto Rico territory or from U.S. territory or Canada, but no foreign players. So there are still ABL connections in the American Association this year. One guy having a pretty good go had as a 13-game hitting streak for the St. Paul Saints, former Kansas City T-Bone, too. The guy played with the T-Bones a couple of years ago. Mikey Reynolds, of course, with the Adelaide Giants last year, had a very solid year for the Giants last year, runner-up, but he is leading the league in hitting, 13-game hitting streak going into tonight for the St. Paul Saints. You saw him play last year. Pretty solid little ball player, that Reynolds.
Yeah, solid ball player, and there's no surprise that he's going well at Indy level. But as you say, DV, it's kind of the Indy is such a lifeblood of Australian baseball, and with that taken away as well this year for Australians, it's tough going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. To not see that kind of stuff. I mean, you're getting it's an opportunity, and it's granted it's not the big leagues, but it's pretty exciting baseball. And Reynolds doing a pretty good job this year for the St. Paul Saints leading. There's a Harold. Good morning to you, Harold. Good to see you. Huey and Louie again. Yes, we are. We do resemble that. We do resemble that remark, by the way. But I want to show you this. I'm going to bring this up for you guys. I want you guys to see this, if I can. You guys, speaking of guys that are doing it, one thing about the Australian Baseball League, I don't think we always talk about enough, is how opportunities project these guys into their next step in their career. Mike Hart, who played a short stint with the Perth Heat, 17-18. He was a mid-season guy. Suddenly gets some reps over there in the ABL, winds up getting signed to the American Association basically on the tape he had there, and has gone on to become a star in the American Association. There are opportunities. You could parlay an unknown guy like Mike Hart into a career with the Sioux Falls Canaries. And remember Mike Hart? Heck of a ball player, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I think Mike Hart came over originally to play state league for the Rockingham Rams.
Right, there you go.
And then
the baseball team in Rockingham. That went, yes.
The baseball team in Rockingham, and then I actually think, from if memory serves me correct, I think he came back and managed Rockingham.
He did. The next year.
The next year, and then
he did. And I want to show you guys this. So, Paul, you're not going to be able to hear this. I want to show you guys the full screen. This is a Mike Hart of the Sioux Falls Canaries. This would have been a couple of nights ago. This is the kind of stuff he's doing in the American Association. Look at this defensive gem. This actually not only saved the game, it took the game to extra innings. This would have been a walk-off winner for Chicago. But this is Mike Hart for the put up again. This is Mike Hart for the Sioux Falls Canaries earlier this week.
The 2-1. Hit well in the left center field. Hart racing back. He's toward the track. He's toward the wall. He leaps, and he makes an outstanding catch. Mike Hart with an incredible play. What an incredible leaping catch from Mike Hart, falling into the warning track to save the game. Just when you think this guy can't get any more astounding on the highlight tape, he tops himself. The 2-1. Hit well in the left center field. Hart racing back.
That's
he's
my
toward the track. He's toward the
sorry
wall.
about that, Paul.
He leaps.
That's my mate right there, Carter Waddell. Paul, I actually clicked you off too, mate. So jump back on there. I'll get you right back on, courtesy of AA Baseball TV. Sorry about that. I guess we just dropped Paul, but the phenomenal play by Mike Hart, and Paul will join us in just a moment. Be back with me there, but Mike Hart, seeing a guy parlay his experience in the ABL to start him in the American Association. He is one of the top players in the association right now, the last 2 years. And good to see him and those Sioux Falls Canaries, but former Perth Heater and former manager of the Rockingham Rams. Paulie, join me back if you could there, buddy. I don't know where you went, but all good. He'll be back with us in just a moment. But again, the show's Talking Baseball Australia. My name is Dan Vaughan. My broadcast partner, Paul Morgan, is waiting in the wings. He'll be right back in just a moment. But again, American Association rolls on. They're playing baseball in the minor leagues in the States. The only other really competitive league playing, 6 teams playing, as the major leaguers are rolling right along here as well. While Paul waits to join me back here in just a moment, I want to give you guys a little something that came via Kansas City. I got a call back in October, November, from an ad agency here in the States, asking if wanted to use the T-Bones ballpark in Kansas City to film a national spot. And the conversation went back and forth. It was Toyota, which, of course, the big worldwide brand. I didn't realize at the time that what the spot was, what the spot was being branded for. I had no idea. To give you guys a couple of historical notes here on the show, it's the 100th anniversary of the Negro Baseball League, which was operated basically parallel to the major leagues before Jackie Robinson became a big leaguer, and of course Larry Doby. Eventually, the league went away, and in the late 50s, early 60s, I got my dates off here, but sorry about that, guys. But as the story goes, that league had some of the, Satchel Paige played in that league, a young Hank Aaron played in that league. It's a a lot of history there. The museum, the Negro Baseball League Museum and Hall of Fame, is in Kansas City in the 18th and Vine District in KC. Very cool area that's actually located in the same basic area that the old ballpark was used in that part of town. It's in a really cool old theater. It's also next to the Jazz Museum as well, is located there. But it's a really cool place. If you're ever in Kansas City and you go, there's several things you do in KC. A, go to T-Bone Stadium in Kansas City, Kansas. B, go to Kauffman Stadium. C, go get you a stop there at the museum. Those are 3 must stops in KC. And I put the Negro Baseball League Museum at the top of that list. I would say it's the top of the list is to hit that Negro Baseball League Museum. And then get you some wings at the Peanut, get you some barbecue at any of the major places. Maybe Oklahoma Joe's. Go to that place. That's always a good one. But those by Kansas City. But what I'm trying to tell you is plenty of love in baseball in Kansas City. And this spot airing right now nationally. This is the one that it's actually cool. I want to show it to you guys because it's also features the Negro Baseball League Museum and also T-Bone Stadium. I want to give you guys a little shot of this. So this is the spot airing currently in the States with this celebration of the 100 years of the Negro Leagues.
Let's hear it for Kansas City Monarch legend Jim Robinson.
Celebrate your history together. The all-new Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
Yes, so that's actually a really cool thing to do. I want to encourage you guys to go. Let me pull this up from the website too, where to go, because I want you guys to some behind the scenes footage that it's really cool because it talks a little bit about at least from a Kansas City T-Bones point of view. But go to the site right here. There we go. Pressroom.toyota.com, and they interview Jim as well. He talks about his time in the Negro Leagues. He didn't make the big leagues. He did make the AAA in affiliated ball. Jim his story was when Jackie Robinson went and Larry Doby went in 1947. Of course, the Korean War happened early in 1952. Is that right? Anyway, the long and the short of it is Jim served the country in Korea, the United States in the Korean War, came back and played minor league baseball during the tail end of his career. But a very good story. He talks about some of the ballparks they played in. They played in Wrigley, played in Yankee Stadium. This is a very legitimate league. And if it's a must-see museum as far as baseball is concerned, a must-see story, but it's really cool. Go to that website, pressroom.toyota.com. You'll see that spot. Also some behind-the-scenes footage. And he talks about making his career in the Negro League and celebrating the 100 years of the Negro Leagues. And that's really a really cool thing. That shot of the booth, that's actually T-Bone Stadium. The field is T-Bone Stadium. The parking lot is also T-Bone Stadium there in Kansas City, Kansas. So a little independent ball as well for you. So there you go, 100-year anniversary and the Toyota spot. A really cool deal to see that. I don't know if you'll see it or not in your coverage, at least watching the U.S. coverage of Major League Baseball, but You might see it, you might not. I know I've seen it here on a couple of broadcasts. Sometimes you do see it internationally, sometimes you don't. Well, great show. Paul actually just dropped out. He had a little trouble getting back on again, but all good. We were at the tail end of the show anyway. Appreciate my broadcast partner, Paul Morgan, for being a part of this thing. Actually, I just put this picture up for you, because that way you know that he's there in spirit. There he is in spirit. There he is in spirit right there. He's with me right there. But Paul Morgan, appreciate him for joining me here on the show. As always, a couple of notes to tell you guys about. First off, next week's show goes back to our normal Thursday in the States, Friday morning in Australia. We'll go right back to with Baseball's Best Mate. Next Friday in the morning in the States, and actually in Australia, and in the evening in the United States. Our guest will be Cam Vale. Cam will join us. Cam, of course, the head of Baseball Australia and the Australian Baseball League, and he'll be joining us next week on the show. Luke Hughes also scheduled to stop by in weeks ahead. Alan D. San Miguel and others. Also Tyler Anderson, a former Perth Heat coach, is going to come on. Cam actually is going to be on a special. I'm going to tease this for you guys right now. Cam is scheduled to join us next week, and then Cam Vale will join us middle of the month of August to give us the schedule unveiling. We'll be one of the first ones to tell you about the schedule right here on Talking Baseball Australia. Baseball's best mate all year long, no matter if it's summer here, summer there, summer everywhere. We're always talking baseball. By the way, this is the logo. I don't know if you can see this. Put this up on the screen. It may not show up, but let me see if you can see. That's the Major League Baseball logo for the week. Of course, all the teams are doing the solidarity. I just saw over my shoulder a moment ago that the Rangers and Rockies are doing the solidarity thing last night. You may have seen the Giants and Dodgers all took a knee as well, celebrating, pardon me, not commemorating, not celebrating, that's the word, honoring the Black Lives Matter, and doing that in all the baseball being a part of that right now. And that's the logo, the temporary logo for that. I want to show you guys that as well. But all teams are taking a moment to honor and to remember and to make sure that we avoid and we continue to work our tails off to overcome systematic racism worldwide, not just in the States, but worldwide. It's a worldwide problem, but one that's been very focused here in the States, and one that I can tell you needs to be addressed and addressed right now, and it needs to stop. And us at Talking Baseball Australia, we are right with those folks, and want to tell you as well that Black Lives do matter, and we do support that. A couple of items as well. I mentioned the show next week. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Instagram's a work in progress, folks, okay? We're working our way to get there. Of course, our Facebook page, you're on that right now. These shows are replayed as well, or archived on my personal YouTube channel at Dan Vaughan Broadcaster. My dog barks right now. Dan Vaughan Broadcaster. You can go check that out. Also, we're revamping our website and our YouTube presence. It was on the Sporting Star. We're working on shifting some things around. I actually worked on that today. We're going to be unveiling a newer, not new, but we're going to update our YouTube and our website for you guys. We have a website where these shows will also be archived and have those for you so you can catch these things. Please share this. If you like the show, share it to your friends, share it wherever. We're also going to have some segments coming up soon called Knee Jerks. We'll see those on Mondays. Be short little video snips. We'll go on our Periscope, on our Twitter page on Talking Baseball Australia, and you can follow that at TBA. I think I have all that for you. Do I have all that for you? Let's see if I do. While we're at it, just put these on the screen. Little review. Dan will teach the class here for you. Real quickly here. And do I have? I guess I did. I think I deleted all that. But you guys know the drill, right? At TBA Australia, just at TBA Australia is our Twitter handle. I guess I can do this while I'm producing the fly here. By the way, yeah, this is our Twitter handle. There we go. There you go. There's our Twitter handle right there. There you go. There's the Twitter handle. Twitter, Facebook, and then, of course, our Instagram. We're going to work hard on that. Also, follow Paul at Paul Morgs. That's at Paul, M-O-R-G-S, Paul Morgs, and I'm at Dan Vaughan Jr. Let me have you guys follow us. I'll get some graphics up for those next week as well. But again, glad you guys were part of this one. And again, thanks for taking the time out. And again, thanks to Paul Morgan. Thanks for all you folks who watched and listened and tuned in for a moment or two here on Talking Baseball Australia, baseball's best mate all year round. Happy opening day to you. Happy opening day wherever you're. Again, my point is on opening day, and I mentioned this in my show earlier today, opening day is when your team opens. And so my team opens right now. So happy opening day to me. Happy opening day to Paul and his Blue Jays are playing right now as they're playing down there in Florida. If your team opened last night, you're Yankees or a Nationals, or you're a Dodgers or Giants, happy day late opening day to you. And for everybody else out on the West Coast, perhaps you're waiting for your team to start, maybe Seattle, happy opening day to you. Hey, just glad to have baseball back. And we're here at Baseball's Best Mate. We're glad that you're here and glad baseball's back as well. Again, next week's show coming to you right here live on Facebook Live. It's Talking Baseball Live Australia. That's right. We're live. We'll be on with you next week, next Friday morning in the West at 9:30. That's 7:30, 8:30 Central Daylight Time in the States. That'll be next Thursday/Friday, Baseball's Best Mate all season long. There you are right there, my partner in crime, Paul Morgan. Thank you, mate, for him, for you, for all of us. Virtual hugs. Love somebody next to you. Hug them. Empathy. Show the love. Let's all be better than we were before. And let's all come out of this thing ready to go for the next baseball season. Here we go. Let's cue that to close. It's the time I hate the most to close this thing out. We'll see you guys next week right here on Talking Baseball Australia, baseball's best mate all year long.
Some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for it's true.